Basketball is very good. Basketball is very good. Basketball is very good.
Other camera.
Hello and welcome to the Ringer NBA show. It's group chat. I'm here with Jason Concepcion, Jonathan Tjarks, Justin Verrier, Paolo Getty, and a whole raft of Ringer folks tonight. The Bitcoin boys are in the building.
Yeah, blockchain.
That's a great name.
If I had to review Game 2 of Golden State versus Houston, I would do it by saying that we have been listening to Steely Dan songs for the last 15 minutes. It's a 20-plus point blowout. Jason.
Yes.
This is about as good as the Rockets can play, I think. Does it change your mind about this series?
I still think I still think that the Warriors are going to win the series, but it's nice to know that they have this gear and then they could go to this level, hit a bunch of shots. It's great to see Eric Gordon be a basketball player who makes jumpers.
Yeah.
Again.
What's it, Bilbo Baggins?
Yeah, when did we start talking about
Return to the Shire?
Yeah, we started calling him a Hobbit tonight. I don't know why.
It's from Basketball Reference. They call him the Hobbit there.
Oh, is that one of his
it's on BREF.
nicknames of unknown
Can we
origin?
source those?
Yeah.
Are those
No, it's just a guy
journalistically
in
sound?
BREF. I'm just making them up.
The role players showed up tonight.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, PJ Tucker had the game of his life, and it wasn't just him. It was like all the guys around him. Basically, they went small. It didn't seem like Clint Capella played a bunch, and they were basically able to force the Warriors, some of those big guys, off the floor, and they took advantage. I mean, those guys were making shots. That's really what the difference came down to.
Like, the ball was moving. They were pushing in transition, easier shots for PJ, Trevor. That was huge, getting the ball up and down a little bit.
Looked very Warriors-esque, whereas last game is mostly just iso ball.
Yeah. It's hashtag Ringer NBA. If you guys have questions, the confetti is coming down in Houston.
Nice.
I guess it's their Super Bowl. Hashtag Ringer NBA. If you guys have questions or comments, we'll be answering your social questions. John, one thing that was sort of, I don't know if it's concerning, but this was not a good Steph game.
Yeah.
This was a Steph
That's a
game
big concern.
where the Splash Brothers were actually outscored by PJ Tucker.
I feel like Steph has had the one good game when he first came back. I'm not sure he's had another great Steph game since. It's been 5 games now.
And that's the problem with somebody, frankly, of Steph's physical makeup, is that he's not going to dominate physically. He's got to have a little bit of his explosiveness speed-wise to get into the game.
I guess he had a good game 5, but he's had some pretty bad games since coming back.
Well, that's kind of the thing about the Warriors is they can weather a bad game from one of their guys, right? But not Klay and Steph. It can't be 2 of KD, Steph, or Klay.
Yeah, Klay had 8 points.
That's why they're going to win the series though, because it's not going to happen again.
Here's a stat I'm watching. I think you look at Durant and Harden points-wise, they'll kind of even out. So to me, it's Steph and Klay versus Gordon and Paul.
Yeah.
And where else are you getting the offense from the Warriors? Durant showed up tonight, but I'm looking at Draymond Green with 6 points, Iguodala with 5.
He's wild.
These are some of the concerns we had earlier in the season. If those guys couldn't contribute, are you putting too much pressure on those 3 guys?
Yeah, if your beachfront property in the Hamptons 5 is maybe decaying a little bit there, this is a problem. They got some nice minutes in the first game from characters like Nick Young, and that obviously didn't pop off tonight. So it would be interesting, John, if you're right, if this winds up being a battle of role players in some ways, or at least secondary stars.
I would say the big adjustment D'Antoni made, he didn't play Nene, he didn't play Ryan Anderson, and he didn't play Mamad Moute after about 2 minutes. He pulled all those guys out the rotation. He basically played 6.5 guys.
Yeah.
And Steve Kerr played like David West. That was disrespectful to have him on the court. We didn't think we'll play this 85-year-old man.
I thought Looney looked okay out there for a little while. I feel like I'm on Looney Island.
He's better than West. Get West out of there.
He plays his role.
Yeah.
He's basically new Zaza. He's like young Zaza.
Zaza.
He's JaVale without a
Danny
catastrophe.
with fake praise. Young Zaza.
I wish I was young Zaza.
A couple other things we need to watch out for. One is that Chris Paul spent most of the fourth quarter with his ankle wrapped up and was limping towards the end of the game. I think he was wearing, I think somebody in here said he was wearing Adidas Sambas over the course of this game. So that may have had a contributing factor to his ankle problems. 2 is that Steve Kerr mentioned, I think after either the first or at halftime, that we win a game and then we have a ton of turnovers. And I think they had something like at least 14 tonight last time I checked.
15
They
turnovers.
came out real flat for sure.
So is that on again, off again thing a little bit of a problem for you when you're watching the Golden State in this playoff series?
I mean, that's like the good and bad of them. They play so loose, they play so free, and it leads to games where they just blow people out by 20. But then you get games like this where the turnovers rack up. And then on the flip side of it, like the Rockets came through just in terms of like the perimeter defense. You look at what happened with Steph. They're very physical with him on the perimeter, and it seemed like it really kind of threw them off balance.
We have to sort of keep in mind that the Durant thing tonight was like, it was almost like what we saw with LeBron last night, where it was like we got a 38-point Durant night where he was always threatening to like go off and just go supernova, and yet they were able to stave that off and shield themselves from that. The Rockets.
38 points on 22 shots. That's pretty good. But again, it's like their trio of scorers is so talented.
You're not backing off.
I'm not backing off.
Well,
Is Klay gonna score 8 points again?
Yeah, I would say like Durant's points, you don't even worry about it. He's getting 40.
Yeah, like
It's
he's
done.
gonna get 40.
Doesn't matter.
It's one of Klay and Steph also has to come through.
Right, this is
just a normal game, not even a great game, just a normal game.
Right, so that was like what Bosch said about the 2012 Thunder team. It's like Russ and KD can get 50, and then everything else is about stopping Harden. Paolo, did you have a thing for us?
Yeah, we got our first question, but before we do that, I wanted to play a little game with you guys, but I know some of you are looking at the box score already, so maybe look away.
Okay.
Who do you think had the best plus-minus on the Warriors that played at least 10 minutes? Because there were some garbage time minutes for, like, Jordan Bell, for example, but who would you guess had the best plus-minus on the Warriors?
Nick Young.
No.
I'm going to guess Looney.
Sean Livingston?
Sean Livingston.
Wow.
Interesting.
There you go.
Get on my level, folks.
+2.
Is there anybody on the Warriors right now who's obviously not a Splash Brother or KD who you think is starting to show themselves as a little bit of a liability after tonight? Is that Kerr might get a little bit more
I mean, beyond
aggressive
West,
about?
obviously.
It's just tough to hit the panic button with them at any point. I just think like if Steph hits 2 or 3 threes, we're looking at a different game.
I would say, I want to see Livingston. Let's post him up some, get him some shots. He's the one guy in supporting cast who can get his own shot.
Yeah.
He might need to get more involved.
Because the flip side of this is a lot of those Rockets ancillary players are playing above their heads right now.
Sure,
100%.
PJ Tucker is having like the game of his life. Though it is interesting, Tjarks, you brought up right before the series that you thought Eric Gordon had to be a key for the Rockets for them to have any chance in this.
He has to be their Klay.
Right. And
Well,
so
he's-
like I guess
yeah.
what about that like is so important to getting the Rockets going?
Well, because he's the one guy beyond Harden and Paul who can get in his own shot. And I think the other thing, too, their supporting cast got open shot. The Warriors missed shots. Rockets pulled it the other way and got their supporting cast easy shots. When the Warriors are making shots, the defense is set. To me, the big lineup the Rockets had, it was Harden, Paul, Gordon, Ariza, Tucker. Tucker at the 5. That was the lineup they found tonight. That's probably the lineup they're going to run with.
Post up Tucker and let him
He
eat
was
down.
doing
Let him
Draymond.
eat
He was
down in
eating
the
him.
paint.
No, defensively though, the
He was
Rockets
eating
were
them up.
letting KD get to his spots as long as those spots were like that mid-range turnaround game that he's obviously incredible at. But I felt like there was almost like that, okay, like if this is the worst that's going to happen, and even if it gets Kevin in rhythm, let him stay in rhythm with Chris Paul guarding him 15 feet from the basket with his back turn, and let's just let him eat off of
So
that.
here's a question from Twitter from Kirk Sears Face. Was
I know that guy. What up, Kirk?
Was it a worse Steph game or a worse Draymond game? Draymond was late on every rotation and had some sloppy turnovers. Steph appeared to be very weakened at Bernie's.
I mean, Draymond has these games all the time. He just provides the defense to like counterbalance all of that. And also, like, you look at his box score, he has 6 assists.
Yeah.
He has a way to move the ball and find these guys that's just essential to what they do.
Yeah, and I think in an away gym, in a situation like this, those three-pointers clang off a little harder. They feel a little bit more wasteful.
Yeah.
When Draymond shoots, you never think it's going to go. What were you calling? Someone was telling me, was that you, Paulo? Like the turtle? What were you calling it?
I said that when he shoots his 3, it looks like a turtle coming out of his shell.
I'm waiting for Houston to rondo Draymond. Like,
To just leave him alone completely.
It hasn't really happened, but that's a gear they can go to if they need to do that.
I'm trying to read the room and figure out whether this is a product of all of us watching a lot of playoff basketball and a draft lottery show, and we're a little like, oh, should we be more excited about this Rockets performance? I can't tell.
You want to do some jumping jacks?
No, it's just that like I'm trying to like everybody's throws their stuff in the air when the Warriors turn it on like this, and it's just like
got
nobody's
track
ever gonna
record.
beat these guys,
Well,
and then they just got beat.
I just kind of feel like we all kind of agreed that Houston's going to have that one game where they just go crazy from
Yes.
three. Like PJ Tucker is not going to shoot 83%.
I will
from
say,
three.
what is his corner three percentage? That it must be so high.
He's went 5 of
Shocker,
6
can you
tonight.
check
That's
that?
not
It's
going
a
to
corner
happen.
3 on PJ Tucker.
He never
tonight.
misses.
Oh, yeah.
It seems like if
There's-
he's open.
It's just tough to get to hit the panic meter, as we were saying.
Yeah.
It's just. I said after that last game, that first game where they blew the doors off of the Rockets, like the only person that's ever beat the Warriors is Draymond.
Yeah.
It's just like if he goes off the handle, that's the one thing you're worried about. But like what they have works. They just weren't hitting some of the shots that they usually do.
The PJ Tucker shot chart is like
Morey
the
ball.
perfect Morey ball shot
Yeah.
chart. He literally has 3 shots made at the rim, and then 5 of 6 all corner threes.
Shout out Hookem, PJ Tucker, Texas great.
Did he go to Texas?
Oh, yeah.
Was he
Yeah.
there with Kevin?
LaMarcus Daniel Booby Gibson.
I always assumed that
Squad.
everybody,
Very
whoever
squad.
went to Texas was also at school with TJ Ford.
Oh, man, TJ.
Right,
love that
Naismith
team.
Award winner.
You know, I think part
Shout
of the
out to
reason
TJ
why
Ford.
I hear what you're saying, where it's like, well, we don't want to hit the panic button. I guess what I'm saying is, are we not hitting the excitement button about the Rockets hard enough? But maybe the proposition of the Rockets is that if they have any prayer against a team like the Warriors, or the Warriors specifically, it's got to be with a performance like this. Like, all of their chips are put on, like, this one number to hit, basically.
Right, and I think it was encouraging that Chris Paul had a pretty dramatic effect on the game, especially in the early going before he got hurt. Seemed like he wasn't shooting particularly well. He finished 1 for 5 from 3, but he did have a way of moving things around, and he was playing that Warrior basketball
was on
that
tilt,
Chris
though.
loves so much.
I was waiting for him to get teed up and maybe tossed out of this game. He was complaining about
I mean, him and
everything.
Draymond, who cracks first?
Well, that's the thing is that, like, now they're going to
to
go back to Golden State, and I think that Chris is going to be in a little bit more of a hostile environment. And look, like, he did some home court shit here where he was, like, doing some, like, incredible fast break ball handling stuff. Like, that was the kind of stuff you do when you feel very comfortable in your environment. But he was still on edge. And I thought that was, like, really interesting to see. He plays on that
He's
line.
always on edge, ever, always.
And you have to give him a lot of credit for like some of the misfires that Steph had. Like he was all up in him several times. And we were saying before, forget that Chris Paul was one of the best players in the NBA when he was healthy this season. He was amazing.
Yeah. I mean, when healthy, I think that's a great point, and that's why I cannot get too excited about this because it's like we need to find out what's
See, I will say
what's
one
up
thing
there.
I'm excited
Like,
about is like the Rockets have 6 players who can play in this series. And they figured it out. They have their 6. Will that be enough in a series against the Warriors?
Can those 6 guys keep the tank
I
full
don't think
enough?
they can go 7, 8, 9. Those guys can't play against Golden State.
Right. Yeah.
So it's just like 6.
And it's like
6.5.
Luke
maybe.
Mbamute was the guy I think they probably thought they could get minutes from, but the shoulder injury takes him out of it. Paolo, do you have like something for us about the series?
Yeah, so there's a question from Chauncey on Twitter. He said, is Curry's health going to be the biggest X factor for the rest of the series?
It's so hard to say with him.
Well, it's so strange because it's like, does that change the chemistry or the dynamic of the team to have 70% Steph paired with Kevin Durant? Like, is like the way that offense supposed to work? Because he was missing those threes tonight. Where you're just like, if this goes down, they could roll
Well, I mean,
off
you
12 in a
expect
row.
Steph to get like 30 points, and he's getting like 15. That's huge. I mean, obviously.
15 and not a super efficient 15.
And like if he's down, like who are you turning to? Is Quinn Cook? Like, yeah, he saved them during the regular season, but I don't want him playing any like crucial playoff minutes.
This is a Klay Thompson series. This is like Klay has to get 25 probably.
All right, let's talk about Klay Thompson because
That's
this is
my guy.
Tjarks' guy.
Let's
That's
do it.
everyone's guy. Who
Yeah,
doesn't like
we
Klay
got to
Thompson?
talk about
No, okay, so, okay, no, this is good because Tjarks, you were asking at halftime. I think after Klay hit like 2 threes in a row, you were just like, what was your actual?
My take was, how many guards over Klay Thompson in a playoff series would you take on your squad?
In a
to win a playoff
guard.
series.
In
Just
the
guards.
So anybody in the NBA.
1 or 2 guard. Or I guess not even 1 or 2. 2 guard. How many guards?
The crazy thing is, it's not as long of a list as I thought
not.
it would be.
Unless
Obviously,
you're
Steph.
asking
Curry,
Yeah.
Unless you're asking
Curry, Harden,
That's my list.
CP3. No.
No, I'm taking
No.
Klay every time.
I made the case for Oladipo, the way Oladipo has been playing over the past.
And see, when I said
year.
like last year, you put Klay in Oklahoma City, he gets his points. Oladipo with Klay gets his points anywhere. He guards everyone.
How long have you been staying at the Claytheism Center down here on Sunset?
I'm in. Man. I'm in.
Did they tell you to
got the
come on in
t-shirt.
for a free meeting? I think that Klay has the luxury of having nights like this. That's what I'll say.
That's true. They need
And
him.
the guys who I would put in
Yeah.
front of Klay do not have that luxury.
This is the series for Klay to show who he is.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to hear a great Mike D'Antoni quote?
absolutely always.
So he said, they walked it up tonight, did a lot of ISOs.
Woo!
I will say Mike's like, what, 65?
Saucy guy.
Yeah,
Saucy.
shade, man.
Punchy Mike
Well,
D'Antoni.
here's
I like
the thing
it.
that's interesting
You
about.
won one game, bro.
Let me just say this.
Come on, man.
Let me just say this
won
about
60.
Mike.
Go
Let me
Olive
just say
Garden,
this about
dog.
my
Come
guy Mike. When Mike D'Antoni was cooking the league with the Phoenix Suns, it was, you can't win this way, 4 out, place of
AKA when
defense,
Greg
blah, blah, blah.
Popovich was taking that dude's soul.
All
every
I'm
spring.
saying is every time Mike is here with a good team in the playoffs, people are like, well, can you win this way? And now, like, he basically created the modern NBA. He's playing a style that fits his team, whatever you want to say about it, it fits his team. And now people are like, ISOs, is it going to work? And blah, blah, blah. It's like, man, I created this. What are you talking about?
I will say, like,
I made this world that you're living in.
Yeah, I will say, like, he's changed his style up. He ran
Yeah.
at Tim Duncan last decade. He's running to Kevin Durant this decade. Like, what are you really going to do?
Yeah, it's like, what
You
are you
take
gonna
the
do?
L with dignity and not come out here and start being
I
like.
will agree. Like,
I
he's a
love
little
it.
old to have shade. Like, he should be more mature.
Yeah. Hashtag Ringer NBA if you want to get in on Klay is better than Westbrook, which apparently I'm in the minority here thinking that's wrong. Or if you want to share your thoughts on Mike D'Antoni's attitude problem, Paolo.
This is a good transition to the question people have been asking, which is, are you still sick of the Rocket style of
Me
play?
personally.
Yes, Chris
yeah,
Ryan.
man. When you go to Vegas and you go to actually this is a bad example. Let me run that back. This is too bad it's live. I don't like watching people play roulette, and that's what they're doing. So if they hit, congratulations, they're rich guys. They get to go have steak dinner. If they had lost, they would have been crying in their beards and just being like, "Oh, it just didn't
These are
work
some
out for us
strong
tonight."
takes. I like it.
He looked at me when he said that.
Because
I think a
we've been
little bit of
fighting about
offense
this.
from
We're
that.
not even fighting. You just look at me sadly every time I go on this rant. I'm all for pace and space, Maury ball. It's fine, but sometimes it's not the most attractive thing to watch.
It's definitely it's an acquired taste. It's like watching someone count cards.
Yes.
But the
Yeah.
NBA version. You know what I mean?
But I think it's pretty educational to see that they can go back into the ball movement style, or at least favor that a little bit more than they had been in the past, like pretty much on a dime. And they did that this game, and you saw what it opened up for the rest of the team.
See, I just appreciate different styles. I feel like the NBA is so homogenized. I just
Yeah.
appreciate a team doing something a little differently. That's nice. I don't mind.
Yeah, I don't necessarily. I like to have that variety. I think that watching guys when it's just a matter of which 6'8" guy is going to guard which 6'8" guy. I don't know who I could possibly be talking about right now. Yeah. It just gets a little bit boring.
I just don't know what's different between Harden doing that and Russ doing that. Like, I guess Russ plays with more violence, and so it's like more dynamic in that sense. But like they're essentially working from the same playbook.
Well, I was going to make a Russ doesn't hunt for calls the way Harden does, but then I know you guys would just come back with stat padding.
He's more theatrical, for sure.
Harden.
Like he's Meatloaf. No, I'm saying Russ is. Russ is Meatloaf on the court.
Yes. Right.
No, you're talking about Meatloaf.
Meatloaf.
Musician?
Like as in like a rock opera?
Yeah.
Paolo, did you have any specific other Warriors Rocket stuff?
Yeah.
Is this the first Meatloaf reference?
When we started talking about
What a historic
Yeah.
moment for
Songs
Group Chat.
like, I won't do that or something. I do a lot.
I will do anything for love,
I won't do
but I won't do that.
All right,
Fat.
so there's an interesting stat out there. I think Chris Haynes tweeted it out, which is that Houston targeted Steph Curry on 23 plays tonight, which is the most in a game this postseason.
You know how I knew that? Eye test.
I test.
Just crunching tape.
Never fails.
I could tell. No, you could see that they were going after him after a while. Matchups are key, man. Like I thought that was like pretty risky when D'Antoni was guarding Kevin Durant with Chris Paul in the beginning of the game. He got 2 quick fouls that looked like it might throw them off like big time, and then obviously they were able to recover.
I
from
think
that.
what I would do if I was Golden State, I put Steph. Have him on Ariza and then just double it. Make Ariza make 4-on-3 plays consistently. I'm not sure that he can do that.
I mean, the Ariza point is also a big thing. I mean, we may have mentioned this earlier, but like the fact that he wasn't in foul trouble in this game really unlocks things and shows like, maybe he's an ancillary guy in offense, but he really keys that defense in kind of subtle ways.
Plus 26 tonight.
Ariza?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like
those
the
numbers.
Rockets, like secondary Rockets guys, the Rocket boosters will really decide everything. Let's talk a little bit about some more general NBA topics. We had some news today. Obviously, Coach Bud had breakfast with Giannis.
Smoothies.
And then took the job later in the day. He had been rumored to be linked with the Raptors job. The
Great job.
Raptors coaching management style has been called into question today as they congratulated their ex-coach, Dwayne Casey, on winning Coach of the Year.
Congrats. You're fired.
Yeah, bringing on like 3,000 gift responses.
But yeah, that was really funny. They were like, a couple days ago, it's like Budenholzer's being chased by Toronto and Milwaukee. I wonder where he's going to pick, like what team he wants to coach going forward.
Let me just say this about the Raptors. I think, to be fair, it's a tough spot when they announce that your former coach just won Coach of the Year. Like, how do you respond?
Right.
How do you even respond? I guess you do nothing, but then I can understand from a certain standpoint, like well, it would be classy, right? To be like, hey, congratulations, Dwayne Casey, but unfortunately, they did fire the guy.
Sometimes you can just say nothing.
Yeah, I don't know if Dwayne Casey's like refreshing their Twitter feed and making sure that he got his proper due from his former
He's
colleagues.
like, what are my mentions like?
Yeah.
By that same token, do you think that letting go of Dwayne Casey, when everybody pretty much guessed that he was going to win Coach of the Year, maybe gave Mike Budenholzer pause about going? Not that there was an offer on the table, but if he had his choice between the two jobs, one place has Giannis, the other place just fired the Coach of the Year and has Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan.
I don't think you have to go that far.
Is this even a choice?
One place has Giannis. I mean,
Yeah,
what are you
one
gonna
place.
do?
Well,
Come on.
I mean, the margin for error, as what you're alluding to, is like way slimmer if you're in Toronto.
Yes.
They're
Right.
built to win the finals right now,
Yes.
and you've seen that the only thing that's going to get your coach fired is if he can't get to that point. And whereas with the Bucks, you just come off a playoff series where it looks better in retrospect
It looks
because
a
of
lot better.
because
Yes.
the Celtics have been
I
so
was just
good.
Trust me, as a
say.
Sixers fan, I've been telling myself the
But
same
like
thing.
Milwaukee gave Boston trouble in a way no one else has been able to. That says something, I think.
Because physically they match up well with them with the like long guys, right? Yeah.
Giannis, Middleton was a killer in that series.
Yeah.
They do have Giannis, but in the regular season, I mean, they had pretty significant flaws, and I don't think they were utilizing the talent they had around them. I think there's a case to be made that they made some pretty poor moves in filling out the roster around them, but I still think there are pieces there. Middleton, I still like Bledsoe. I think you could utilize those guys to make a top 3 team in the East pretty quickly.
The big adjustment they made in that playoff series was getting Thon back in.
Yes,
there.
100%.
If Thon was out the whole regular. All Thon was in there, then it was different.
I mean, that was the lineup that shut down the Raptors for a one half of a playoff game, the previous playoffs.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
shouts to Joey Prunes for recalling that happened. Joe
I hope
Conti,
that
where are
when
you?
Bud
I like
wins
Joey
Coach of the
Prunes.
Year
That's
next
good.
year,
That's
he
good.
dedicates it to Joey Prunes.
And I think, Budenholzer is the guy who won 60 games with a Hawks team that had, no transcendent superstar, so I get it.
Except for Al Horford.
Al Horford is a great
Jason, one thing that we're not talking about enough is
It always comes back to Al Horford.
the impact
Let me
Al
just say,
Horford has
always
outside of the
comes
box
back.
score.
It's like when
Yes.
Michelangelo was at his peak. That's what the
the
screams
only
are
thing
like.
we're not talking less about
Yes.
is the job Brad Stevens is doing.
And what a job it is.
What's crazy is he never talks about it to the point where their narrative is now that he doesn't talk about it. He never talks about it, and so he's just almost wrong for doing that as well.
What if Brad Stevens is like leak central? He's like the Kellyanne Conway of Brad Stevens, and he's constantly briefing writers, being like, "Please write a really nice fawning piece. I'll give you all the dirt on the Morris brothers." You know that's what's happening. Stevens is dirty.
Are you okay?
I will
He is
say,
the president. He is a political mastermind.
I don't think Stevens is doing what D'Antoni did tonight. Stevens is not worrying
Shady.
about the
No,
media.
he'll be like
He's
all
just giving you
cooperation.
straight professionalism all the way down.
The Budenholzer thing comes down to essentially, I think, because you mentioned the Hawks, the best case scenario for the Raptors, which we pretty much just saw Dwayne Casey got that, is that Hawks season. It's like a really
is.
good regular season that gets all dependent on who you face in the playoffs.
Right. I think that's the thing with this Raptors season, best season in franchise history, but their playoff defeat really revealed structural issues. There's structural issues there.
I think there's just a ceiling for a team when Lowry and DeRozan are your best players.
Yeah, the ceiling's the roof, and the roof is very low.
The real thing is we're moving towards an OG and an Obi Raptors team.
But
This is happening, folks.
Giannis, we don't know what the ceiling is.
Right. And if you're Bud, having come from that Hawks situation, you're definitely going away from the Raptors for that very reason. You want to have the potential to be more. You're going to want the potential to actually take it to LeBron and have a chance.
Yeah, it's obvious. Giannis, go coach Giannis.
Dude, I'm thrilled because a lot of the times these incredible young players, it's pretty rare for them to get a great coach like that because usually those young players are drafted onto bad teams. It's pretty rare that they have a good coach in place. And you want Jordan to have the fill. You want.
And then you had like Scott Brooks
And
and,
listen,
KD.
Giannis Instagram storied that he got a BJ Bell for Valentine's Day, and that's the kind of thing that you didn't, that Bud didn't have with the Hawks.
A little spice.
You didn't have a
Excitement.
He
player.
had spice segments.
I'm
and
telling you.
Yeah, here you go. Here's our replica.
Kyle, you got anything on social for us?
Well, I mean, the question that was out there was just like, can Coach Bud take him to the next level?
Yeah.
And I think that's just what you guys have been talking about.
I think somebody wrote a blog post about that.
Yeah, I
today.
did. So, like, the thing I thought was interesting is that, like, with the Raptors, I kind of look at it, if he had gone there, like you said, there's already a known ceiling.
Yeah.
It would have, the best case scenario is, like, the repeat of the 2015 Hawks.
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
You win 60 games and then you lose to LeBron in the playoffs. I think I'm fascinated to see how he deals with Giannis because this is, like we said, the best player he's ever had.
I think the big question is what happens to Jabari Parker, what happens to Thon McCurr, shout out Isaac Lee, what happens to Eric Bledsoe.
Another point in Paolo's fantastic blog post is
Paolo, let's
just
go
that
blog.
they really need Bud to unlock the rest of that roster, regardless of what happens
Yeah.
to Jabari, because they don't have many options. They're up against.
They're
I think
locked up with a lot of that
right.
stuff.
I think they're
Right.
over the cap already, even if before they make a decision on Jabari.
Is Bledsoe? There's Bledsoe under
1 year.
under
1
control.
year left.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right. One of the reasons why everybody in the East is in panic mode right now is the specter of LeBron. So he obviously just like wiped out the Raptors like a rock hitting the earth. But watching him against the Celtics, we have to wonder whether or not LeBron's bags are prematurely packed right now, or like they're already packed. They certainly
They look packed.
started to
They've
look.
been
They
packed.
had
That house
the
is
air
empty.
of.
The house has got a TV and a chair.
Yeah, it had the air of LeBron going to Design Within Reach to furnish the Brentwood house.
One of two.
Yeah, we'll be talking nonstop about this between now and the summer.
I can't wait.
But what did you think of last night's game? Do you think it was LeBron got hit in the head? They can come back and win 2 in Cleveland. It's a series like we're seeing here, or what?
I mean, listen, I would not be surprised to see them win in Cleveland.
Boston's a little bit punchy
But
on the road.
It just kind of feels like, we've talked about it so much that there's just not a lot beyond LeBron. Kevin Love had a great series against the Raptors, but it's like you're waiting for another guy to do
I was
something.
gonna say like they need George Hill. Like that's the guy.
and he's washed.
That's the guy
And
they
just the
gotta
fact
have.
that Jeff Green is getting major minutes on this team. Rodney Hood is
They need Rodney
Rodney
Hood.
Hood refused to go into a game.
Right.
And he's playing.
And they're like, we gotta have him.
We
gotta-
can't.
gotta have
He's
this
got to be on the
guy.
court, guys. We got to have Rodney Hood who refused to go in the game on the court because what else do we have?
We talked about roulette earlier. I mean, that's essentially what Tyler has been doing this
Yeah.
entire series. And, like, virtually no one can be counted on outside of LeBron and Love. Only up until that second round
Yep.
could now be counted on. But even he has had his difficulties, especially with that injury.
And
in the
they
first
have
round.
to play Corver, it seems like, and he can't guard anybody.
He can't guard
It's
anybody.
tough, man.
And J.R. Smith delivered the Andrew Bynum foul to
that
Al
was,
Horford.
there was a couple of things like that where I was just like, okay, if we're counting on LeBron Hill pick and rolls as the offense, that's bad.
It's bad.
If JR is starting to throw forearms on dudes, that means he's like a little bit checked out. That's bad. Rodney Hood, incapable of contributing anything on the court, bad. Like it's bad.
And what, the worst part about this whole thing is like they don't even seem like they're happy to be there.
No.
They're playing out the string.
So Windhorst wrote this whole piece today, right? That was really good. It was about LeBron fatigue. It was just about how institutionally you play these 100-game seasons. There's never a certainty that LeBron is going to be there beyond 2 years. Everything is basically a extended tryout for his services.
Yep.
/ you're making all these moves that are not for long-term sustainability. They're to like surround LeBron with the guys he wants to be surrounded by, although he never fully takes ownership of those moves, right? And that even in Cleveland, even with the sustained success that they've had, there is organizational fatigue at having LeBron around. Dude, I'm just more saying this is definitely in the air now.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely culpable for some of the issues that they have. He's not only the face of the franchise anymore, he's kind of just the franchise. And he can move that wherever he sees fit. And we'll see this summer if he does that in LA or whatever. But he forces a team to play for the now, and we're seeing the future kind of catch up to them. Their mortgaging of the future now, they have to pay the price for it.
Yeah, I mean, the Kyrie trade looks like an absolute catastrophe.
Then again, maybe he's hurt, he stays in Cleveland, and what's different?
Or maybe
If only Gilbert knew what to do with mortgages.
This I'm here for. I'm here for the Dan Gilbert trade. I'm here for it.
one of the problems is that, what were you going to say? One of the problems was that They got the 8th pick last night, is that right?
Yeah.
So they were hoping that was going to be the 1. Obviously, Cleveland's had the 1 a couple of times. Got them Kyrie, got them Anthony Bennett, got them Andrew Wiggins, a variety of different results there. But the number 1 pick and Kevin Love, you get into the mix for like some really good returns there. Number 8, an aging Kevin Love, and not a lot else to offer up if you want to try and keep LeBron or rebuild after his departure.
I mean, I think you start from scratch. The number 9 pick is their first pick of a rebuild.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
I mean, it seems like they can get a pretty good player at 8. We were talking earlier. It seems like in that range, the draft is deep enough to where you could find a guy who would help you later on. But LeBron, as we just mentioned, isn't going to want to wait. Like, that pick is, if he is staying there, is going somewhere else.
Yeah, the huge question that we're all faced with, or what really LeBron is faced with, is he going to go to another big 3 type hyper-competitive situation where he can immediately challenge for the title, or does he want to go somewhere like Los Angeles where it's more of an...
But see, that can be a big 3 real fast.
Okay, so lay that out for me.
So you trade Ingram for Kawhi Leonard, sign LeBron, sign Paul George. That's
Damn,
your
you had
squad.
that in the back pocket.
We've been talking about this all week. So then you have
He's making
LeBron, Kawhi, Paul George, Josh Hart, Lonzo Ball's your 5.
Oh man, Josh Hart.
Josh
Hart's good, man.
You signed Nerlens Noel.
Signed Clutch Sports.
Clutch
Sports.
Sports.
Baby.
Okay, wait a second. Trade Brandon Ingram for Kawhi Leonard straight up?
Then you can get the cap filler and stuff, like Lil
Okay.
Dang or something.
And then how do you get Paul George? Just straight
So
sign him?
sign LeBron and Paul George.
David West will obviously want to come play with him at that point.
I know, seriously, they'll get Karl Malone back for that one. I love it. Okay, so we were talking a little bit about draft stuff. Do you have any LeBron stuff before we
Yeah,
move
there was
on?
one which I thought was interesting from Adrian Perry. He said, could LeBron join up with the Bucks, and would he fit there?
That's the thing is, like, I don't see LeBron, no disrespect, I'm just using this as a descriptor, going to another small market Rust Belt city that's not Cleveland.
I don't see that either.
Like, I could see him going
It's not enough.
to Philly because he thinks it's straight back to the finals. I could see him going to LA because it's LA. And I could see him.
LA though.
Get out of here.
Come on, man. It's not going to be the Clippers.
See, to me, LeBron's not thinking, I want to be in a young team. He needs a team next year. Like,
Yes.
he's thinking immediate.
Yes.
Like, even Philly, I think, is too long for LeBron to wait.
Shout-
Well, that's what was in Windhorst's piece today, was just like, if you're Philly, not that do you want LeBron out, but like that's the cost that comes with it.
It's like Houston and the Lakers.
I think so, yeah.
That's
yeah.
it.
Well, how much longer does LeBron have at his peak anyway?
Okay.
That's the big
That's
concern.
what we were
Like-
saying at the beginning of this year.
I mean, you put it at probably 2 to 3 years, right?
Right, but I mean, he was 33. He played 82 games this year, and I think there's like the impulse to say, well, he could do this for another 2 to 3 years. But what if these things start to catch up for him? What if pushing it so hard this season starts to affect his next season or the season after that?
I was telling you this morning, like, it reminds me a bit of like 33-year-old Shaq, where he'll
Yeah.
still get 40 and 20, but you're like, he's tired.
Yeah,
Like,
playing
you know,
slowly,
he is tired,
not playing with
And like
as much
LeBron's had a
ferocity.
few games in these playoffs where he's like, oh, this game isn't happening. He just kind of shuts it off.
That's why.
He
That's why
knows.
KOC would not take LeBron on the Celtics.
Oh yeah, that was a strong take right there.
Shouts to KOC wherever you are.
Chicago.
Do you guys want to talk about the Celtics for like 30
Who
seconds?
uttered the immortal words last night? Do the Celtics even want LeBron?
Was that on air?
It was not on air, but it was in this room.
No,
and
it was definitely
like-
on air. We asked
Was it on air? It was
we
incredible.
pitched LeBron for Kyrie the other way, and he wasn't having it.
All right, really quickly, I don't want to. We've done a lot of Celtics content
Yeah.
this week, but does
Have we?
anybody
There's never enough.
have we done enough Celtics
No,
content?
I don't
Do
think
you
Kind of
guys
not. I mean, we blew out the Sixers.
you have not been, you were not out here when like Bill was walking around, just like walking up to us talking about Average Al. Do the Cavs have a chance to the Celtics? Is this a new Celtics dynasty? What are we talking about here? How impressed are you with Boston, and how much do you think that like we should all be prepared for this to be the next 10 years of our life?
I think we should be pretty prepared. I mean,
Yeah.
it seems like the Sixers, regardless of what they do this summer, they're going to do something significant. They're going to be right there with them. But I'm just so impressed by what they've been able to do on the defensive end. It seems like, I don't know if there's a new trend there or what, but they've been able to exert dominance over a game in the way that the Warriors have on offense.
Yeah.
And in the same way, they've been able to switch and move and like call out their own like plays. They freelance a little bit. It's one of the more significant trends that I've seen over the past 2 years since the Warriors came
the
to bear.
elegance
Yeah.
and athleticism.
See,
of the
here's what
defense.
I'm thinking. Like Boston, what they're doing now is we have all these picks. We're going to Godfather Anthony Davis. That's the plan, I think. Give the Hornets a Godfather offer. Like, you have to take this
Pelicans.
Pelicans.
trade. Yeah, whatever. Just like
The Hornets wish they had Anthony Davis. They lost that
You
lottery.
get Davis to Boston. Now you're talking a dynasty. Now you're talking this is the new Warriors.
I don't think they need Anthony Davis. I mean,
They
I
need
think
Anthony
that
Davis, I think.
I think that yes, that would assure them a dynasty. But I think what they have right now is going to go to the finals, and then they're going to add 2 All-Stars to the mix who fit in pretty seamlessly.
If they get Anthony Davis, I go to Bleacher Report. I leave the ring. I can't listen to this anymore.
If they go to Anthony Davis, no, we have to go to Barstool and just commit to the pick.
Breitbart Sports is happening. We'll get moving
One
on
thing I
that.
do want to concern Troll about, though, is like we're talking about, they're going to get Kyrie and Gordon next year. They're going to be so good. Tatum and Hayward. They're going to have this pick, the Kings pick next year.
Yeah.
What if the most important part of the Boston Celtics is a restricted free agent? Or is it an unrestricted free agent? Is it Marcus Smart?
Restricted.
Restricted.
He's restricted.
So,
He's kind of like the
can you put a
Draymond.
price tag on effort?
I'm great.
Yes, they will pay him a lot of money next year.
What is Aaron Baines making? Because that's what the price is.
Yeah, but can they afford to pay Smart? And the only thing that they have a problem with now is allocating enough money to pay all the guys that they like. That's why almost in some ways you are right. Maybe it is right for them to put
I would
all
say
some of
it's-
these assets together and go after.
It's not even about money so much as like next year you tell Tatum, hey, you were great, 3rd option. You tell Jaylen Brown you're 4th. Will those young guys bucket all under that? I don't know.
Yeah, I guess that is a good
probably
point.
more of the concern is like, will they buy back into a role of a
Yeah, and then it's
solid-
also and this has been brought up a couple of times this week because we're just speculating, but the Kyrie massive contract on bad knees.
Yeah.
In what, 2 years, right? So that's a question. Now we were talking a little bit earlier about that Cavs pick that's coming in at 8, right? And last night we did the NBA draft lottery, and I encourage everybody to go to nbadraft.theringer.com to see an incredible treasure trove of work done by Tjarks and KOC
lot
and
of
Danny
content.
Chow.
Content.
A ton of content, mock drafts, team fits, all that
You
stuff.
got hashtags in there, it's great.
What's the, aside from Luka versus DeAndre, which is the 1-2 battle that we'll have for a couple of weeks, what's the most interesting draft debate you guys have come across so far?
I mean, it's just all these bigs. There's like 6 bigs in the top 10 in most boards. Are they that valuable? Who's the better one? Who's the biggest risk? That's going to be the big storyline of this draft, I think, beyond the Luka stuff.
Anything for you that's been like bubbling up so far?
It's just kind of the same thing. Like, what does it mean to be a big in the modern NBA? Like, guys that size, like, what is the role? Do they have to shoot threes? Does Bamba have to get a 3?
Yeah.
Like, what is the role of defense? If DeAndre Ayton never turns into a defensive guy, how valuable is he? Like, I'm really fascinated by that because so much of the league now is like small ball.
Yeah.
You know, like variations on small ball.
Right.
So what is it like? And you've seen bigs outside of the Anthony Davis level guys be relegated to like role players and situational guys. Look at Capella tonight. Like, so what does that mean? What does that mean for Bamba? What does that mean for Ayton?
Right. They have to be. It's interesting to watch these big guys who are being asked to expand the horizons of their game so much, but it's like the guards are like, he'll figure out his jumper.
Right.
Like it's like we were talking about Shea today.
Yeah.
Not Shea Serrano, but we were talking about Shai Alexander, and it was like, yeah, he'll figure out the jumper sooner or later.
Right.
Like, let me assure you, that is a nervous proposition for somebody to watch a guard figure out their jumper live on camera. Anybody that you're like, any debate or tension that you're interested in that you've just been following for the last 24 hours?
I just want to know which bridges will rule the world.
Yeah.
There are just too many bridge eye in this draft, and only one of them will survive.
Yeah, Battle of Two Bridges is.
Team Miles, hashtag that.
I like Mikhail. Paolo?
I'm kind of out on bigs as like a
wow.
a draft draft.
Paolo's
I don't
big
know.
is
I just
easy met too. That's talking
no,
about
but like
Paolo.
I'm just kind of like the wings are clearly so much like okay. So take Embiid for example, right? We know he has like that transcendent talent, but he's so unique that I feel like it's so hard to find another guy like that your better odds are just trying to find a 3-and-D wing or something like that.
Yeah.
I think it's just more impactful.
I would
over
say
the
there's
long
no
run.
Joel Embiid in this draft. I don't
Right.
think.
So
Aiden's not a game
So like
changing.
Aiden blocked like 1/5 of
Yeah,
the
the
blocks
de- the
that Embiid
defense is
has.
really
it's
an
just
issue.
a whole different thing.
The fact that he's been a minus defender like since high school at his size and athleticism, like you have to, it's a concern.
Enjoy him, Sacramento. Any other draft stuff that's been popping? Like, how are you feeling about Trae Young, who through the New York
Future
Daily
Nick
News,
Trae Young?
who has expressed his interest in being at the Garden?
Listen, if the history of guys who have wanted to come to the Garden, and if
Malik
it's-
Monk!
Shouts to my guy Malik Monk. Shouts to Amari Stoudemire. The Knicks are back. It's a checkered history to say the least. Trey, I just hope it happens. I hope he's the guy that he was in the early part of the season. If he does end up at the Garden, we could use a scorer. Otherwise, it's like, him and Timothy Hardaway Jr. are like, the Spider-Man meme pointing at each other. You know what I mean? So we'll see.
Well, Kristaps is on the sideline.
Yeah, we will see.
Anybody else? Is there a Connecticut guy in the draft this year? I don't know.
No, there hasn't been a UConn guy in quite a while.
Kyle, anything to wrap us up with here?
Well, we got some more D'Antoni stuff.
Oh, is he really still? Is he still serving?
He's pissed.
He had quite the presser. There
Wow.
was like a few quotes in there. He said, "We can beat anybody, anywhere, anytime. Playing the way we play. Some people might not like
Just
it."
a quick newsflash to him: he can only play one of
It's
3
just
other
like
teams
you
this
just-
season.
He
so-
was he unbuttoning his shirt while he was saying
Like
this?
you
It's
just saved, you won game 2 at home and got tied 1-1. Like I don't know, you need to be so forward.
He was
What
feeling
else did he
himself.
say?
I
No,
like
he
it.
was just basically doubling down on like people wanted us to change and we didn't change.
How was
And, like,
Kerr's press conference? Was he like?
he was making jokes as he does. Somebody asked him like how much he thought that Steph's health had a factor in it. He said 13.6%. So
It
Popovich
changed.
Popovich
They
in
moved the
there.
ball more.
Yeah.
That's a significant change from what they were doing.
Also,
changed
like,
the rotation.
just the fact that D'Antoni before the game was like, "We're not changing a thing,"
Right.
And then they
Clearly did.
obviously changed.
Yeah.
And now back in the presser, we're not changing. We're never changing.
Mike's
I love
got,
it.
he's
Look,
got
it's
his,
true.
he's got his talking points. He doesn't
respect
care what
the
actually
hustle.
happens. The
I
talking
respect
points
it.
remain the
I
same.
like it too. All right, we'll wrap up there for Jason, John, Justin, Paolo, everybody else. This has been Group Chat. We will be back next week. Thank you for being with us.
Basketball is very good. Basketball is very good. Basketball is very good.